Good afternoon. The family of the man who was fatally stabbed on a train yesterday say he was an honourable man who would always help people in trouble. Lee Pomeroy, who was 51, was attacked in front of his teenage son just after they got on board a train in Guildford in Surrey. A man was arrested earlier this morning on suspicion of murder. A woman detained at the same time is being held on suspicion of assisting an offender. Our correspondent James Waterhouse reports.
The victim has been named as Lee Pomeroy, who lost his life the day before his 52nd birthday. His relatives have paid tribute, saying he was a loving husband and father, and that he'll be deeply missed by all of his family. A reassuring presence with an investigation that has showed no signs of stopping. Through looking at CCTV footage, police now have a clearer idea of what led to the attack, which officers say was an extraordinary level of violence.
Both men joined the train at Guildford. More or less straight away there's been some conversation between the two men. They have continued that conversation for about 3 to 4 minutes, first in one carriage and then have moved through to a second carriage. At some stage then, violence has then ensued, resulting in this tragic death of the man yesterday afternoon.
The train had left Guildford at lunchtime, bound for Waterloo Station. The men boarded the train at the first stop, London Road Station, just after 1 o'clock. A few minutes later at Clandon, the next stop on the line to Waterloo, the suspect got off the train and fled. The train went on to Horsley Station, where ambulance crews found the victim dead. The man was then arrested at 6 o'clock this morning at a house in Farnham, along with a 27-year-old woman on suspicion of helping an offender. It's between the stations and there that police are now trying to find the weapon used. The 14-year-old boy, meanwhile, is receiving help from specialist officers. Officers are keen to stress this is rare. One violent offence usually happens in every million passenger journeys, they say, in England, Scotland and Wales. That, however, doesn't lessen the sense of shock that many will be feeling. Well, it's here at Horsley Station where the alarm was first raised 24 hours ago. Now, alongside those two arrests, we have learnt more about the man who lost his life the day before his 52nd birthday. The family of Lee Pomeroy have paid tribute, saying Lee took his son on a trip to London on a day out. It goes on, Lee would have had his birthday today, but he did not get to see his presents. He was an honest, bright person who loved music very much. He knew history and art, and he had a Bachelor of Science in Maths. He was a devoted family man and did everything for his family. He was an honourable man and would always help someone who was in trouble. They've now asked for privacy while they come to terms with their loss.
James Waterhouse in Surrey, thank you. 3 men have been killed and 4 wounded in a shooting at a bowling alley in Southern California. Witnesses say shots were fired after a fight broke out at the Gable House Bowl complex in the coastal city of Torrance late Friday night. Police say no suspects have yet been identified. A 31-year-old man has been shot dead by armed police at an address in Coventry. 2 more men were detained at the scene on Burnbury Road following what officers called an intelligence-led operation. The man was shot at around 6:20 last night. The area remained cordoned off this morning. 5 teenagers have died in a fire at an escape room activity venue in Poland. The girls, all 15 years old, have been celebrating a birthday party. Escape rooms involve teams finding clues and solving puzzles in order to free themselves from a locked room. This report from Monica Plaha, which includes flashing images.
What was meant to be a birthday celebration amongst friends turned into an evening of horror. The emergency services were called to this escape room on Friday evening after a fire broke out at around 5 p.m. 5 girls, all aged 15, locked in a room as part of the game, were all killed in the blaze. A 25-year-old man was seriously injured. The incident happened in Poland's northern city of Koszalin. Its mayor has declared Sunday as a day of mourning. Officials say they're inspecting over 1,000 escape rooms across the country.
From tomorrow, all escape rooms, game centres and clubs will undergo fire safety inspections with special attention paid to evacuation plans, escape routes in this type of locations. There should be a moderator in each location able to unlock the rooms and let people out. We will check this and it will be strictly controlled.
Poland's president reacted to the news on Twitter, writing it was a devastating tragedy that 5 joyful girls have had life torn away from them. The cause of the fire is not yet known, but Polish authorities say they'll continue to investigate what caused this tragedy. Monica Plaha, BBC News.
Here, smokers and problem drinkers who are admitted to hospital in England will be given help to cut down or quit. The measures are part of a new long-term plan aimed at reducing demand on the health service. NHS England says problem drinkers and smokers cost the health service £6 billion every year. Donald Trump says that the partial shutdown of the US federal government, which is now entering its 3rd week, could last months or even years. Democrats are refusing to agree to the funding the president needs in order to fulfill his election promise of building a wall on the border with Mexico. Officials from the White House and Congress will meet again later today in a further attempt to end the budget row. Mountaineering experts say the risks of winter climbing should not be underestimated following the deaths of 2 young climbers on Ben Nevis. A student from Germany died on New Year's Day, while another young climber, 21-year-old Patrick Boothroyd from West Yorkshire, died on the mountain in December. Here's our Scotland correspondent, James Shaw.
Ben Nevis, the highest mountain in the British Isles, and for that reason extremely popular with walkers and climbers. But the paths across its north face can be dangerous. This is what's known as the Ledge Route. On New Year's Day, a student from Bristol University fell 500 feet down the mountain from this path and was killed. Her 3 companions were rescued by a Coast Guard helicopter.
The actual helicopter managed to winch them off the crag from where they were, and I was below the crag, which was Carngelig Buttress, where unfortunately she'd fallen.
It was the 2nd death in recent weeks. Patrick Boothroyd, who was 21, died in December.
Tens of thousands of people climb Ben Nevis every year. Most use this path to the summit, which is relatively straightforward, but some, including the 2 students who died recently, attempt the rock faces and gullies on the north side, which, even in the best weather, are never free of risk.
Many new climbers use professional guides. This group is returning from the mountain after a training day.
It's horrible to hear of accidents and fatalities in the mountains, especially because it's such a life-affirming thing to do. Despite all of our best efforts, we can't control everything. It is a risky environment, and sometimes things go wrong fairly randomly.
Experienced climbers know and accept the dangers of scaling Britain's highest peak. Those with less experience may not be so aware that this place can be beautiful and deadly. James Shaw, BBC News, Ben Nevis.
Well, with all the sport this afternoon, here's John Watson at the BBC Sports Centre. Good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon, Sean. Many thanks indeed. It's FA Cup 3rd round weekend, a chance for lower league sides to spring an upset as the Premier League teams join the competition. 22 matches in total today, some of which are already underway. We've had the first use of VAR in this year's competition at Old Trafford, where Manchester United were eventually awarded a penalty for this challenge against Championship side Reading. Juan Mata stepping up to make it 1-0 to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side. Elsewhere, West Ham are in front against Championship side Birmingham City. Marko Arnautovic heading in for a 1-0 lead. Now, after winning gold at last year's Commonwealth Games, England's netball team are hoping for an even better 2019 with all eyes firmly focused on the World Cup, which starts in July. In the meantime, the Super League season begins today with all 10 teams competing in Birmingham. London Pulse will be making their debut, led by the England captain Amma Agbezi. Our reporter Kate Gray has been to meet them.
For years and years and years, we've wanted to achieve it. Actually doing it, it was a shock to us.
There's an obstruction!
Almost was slow motion.
Helen Housby to take gold! England have done it!
And then I think it was just carnage and mayhem. We've won now, but actually it's going to be harder.
Amma Agbezi has had quite a year as England captain, but she has spent the majority of her netball career playing in Australia and New Zealand national leagues.
They're professional, they're moving in the right direction in terms of where female sport wants to go. You basically can just be a netballer and train during the day, and then on court the intensity is crazy.
Now she's back in the UK and has joined a new team, London Pulse, and has ambitions of replicating the success from Down Under on home soil.
We've got lots of talented players. It's probably more about how we combine together. I think we're in a good place, so the first game will be interesting to see.
London Pulse will be the first London-based team to join the National Super League, and it's thanks to their established youth setup that they've been able to enter a senior team this season. Their home matches will take place here at the iconic Copper Box Arena, with hopes that their growing netball fan base will turn up and show their support.
Over the last sort of year, we've seen a resurgence of netball in terms of the public psyche. And for me, it's just been phenomenal to have the idea of London Pulse. Now we're here, we're just so excited about the season starting.
The Super League runs from January to May, and then the attention turns to the Netball World Cup in Liverpool in July, where Amma and the England team will be hoping to set pulses racing once again. Kate Gray, BBC News, Copper Box Arena.
The Celtic Warriors took on Team Bath in the first of the day's matches, the latter with one of the stars of the game, Serena Guthrie, in their ranks, having returned from a period playing abroad. Team Bath eventually winning 58 points to 41. And ahead of the first Grand Slam of the year, the Australian Open, the defending champion Roger Federer has won the Hopman Cup alongside compatriot Belinda Bencic. The mixed team event saw Switzerland take on Germany. In today's final, it was a repeat of last year's final, which the Swiss pair also won. The Australian Open begins in Melbourne in 9 days' time. And that, Sean, is all the sport for now. It's back to you.
John Watson there. Thank you very much, John. You can see more on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel throughout the afternoon. The next news on BBC One is at 10 to 6. Have a good afternoon.